All right, so we're really diving deep today, huh? Straight into the heart of the Amazon and this pretty frightening drought they're going through. You were messing around with all these articles and reports you sent over.
No, I needed to get a handle on this whole thing. It's complex.
Yeah, that's why we're here, right? To try and cut through it all.
Absolutely. We're going to look at everything, the science, the numbers. People are really feeling the effects of this.
Yeah, you see the headlines everywhere. Unprecedented, record-breaking. And it's like, okay, is this just hype? Or is it really as bad as they're making it sound?
Oh, it's bad. What's happening over there in the Amazon is really serious. I mean, you just have to look at the water levels. The rivers tell the whole story.
Okay, so like what kind of rivers are we talking?
Well, take the Madeira River, for instance.
Yeah.
Huge tributary. Normally it's flowing high, think like higher than a double-decker bus. And now, some areas, it's down to 48 centimeters.
48 centimeters, that's barely anything.
Exactly. And it's not just the Madeira, it's all over the basin. The Solimoens, another major one, it's at its lowest point ever recorded. Sections have just completely dried up.
Wow.
And then you have the Purus River, 2 meters.
Oh.
2 full meters below its previous record low. So yeah, this isn't isolated. This is the entire basin in trouble.
So this is like a whole bunch of things going wrong at once, right?
Yeah.
Right. But the research you sent, it seems like climate change is public enemy number one here.
Right. I mean, you always have natural patterns like El Nino that mess with things, sure. But the science is pretty clear on all this. It's being made way worse because of human-caused climate change.
How much worse are we talking here?
Well, there was one study that said this drought is something like 30 times more likely to happen now because of global warming. 30 times. Just let that sink in a minute.
30. I mean, that's wild. Okay,
Oh.
but how does climate change, actually make droughts this bad? Break that down for me.
Think about it. Warmer temperatures, you get more evaporation. That's just basic science, right? So you've got the atmosphere pulling all this moisture from the ground, less rain. It's like the whole ecosystem is parched.
And isn't that where deforestation comes in? Like
Mhm.
a healthy rainforest, it's almost like it creates its own rain, right?
Exactly. Trees, they're like these giant pumps pulling water up from the ground and then releasing it. Evapotranspiration, they call it.
What now?
Evapotranspiration. But the point is, when you clear out huge chunks of forest, you're messing with that whole system. Less rain, drought gets even worse.
And then on top of everything else, you've got wildfires, which also happen more because of deforestation, right?
Exactly. Vicious cycle. And those fires, they release all this smoke and junk into the air. That can actually screw with cloud formation even more. Less rain again.
So, okay, we've got these crazy low water levels in the Amazon's rivers, and this is impacting people too, right? This isn't just some far-off problem.
Absolutely. Millions and millions of people live in the Amazon, a lot of indigenous communities who depend entirely on those rivers. And we're seeing reports shortages of clean water, food. People can't even travel on the rivers anymore. Whole villages are cut off.
I read about people having to walk for miles just to get water.
It's a crisis, plain and simple. And the transportation thing, that's a huge issue. Supplies can't get in, neither can medical help. It's a bad situation that's just getting worse.
What about the animals? I mean,
Well-
the Amazon is famous for how many plants and animals live there, but this has got to be hurting them too.
It is. Huge numbers of fish are dying. The places where indigenous communities traditionally hunt are all messed up.
One thing that really got to me was that story about the dolphins dying in Lake Tiffy.
Yeah, that was rough. Lake completely dried up. That's how bad it is.
Man, it's kind of bleak. So is there any good news here? Can the Amazon bounce back from this?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And honestly, it's what everyone's trying to figure out. The Amazon is strong, but we might be approaching this point of no return.
This tipping point thing, what does that even mean? Like the whole rainforest just turns into a desert, just like that.
Well, not overnight, no. But it could happen faster than we want to think about. See, the rainforest, it's got this rhythm, right? Wet season, dry season. Everything's evolved to work with that.
Right.
But these droughts, they're getting longer, more intense, and it's all messed up because of climate change. So that balance, it starts to tip. Trees start dying, less moisture in the air, and you slowly start to lose the rainforest. It could turn into something more like a savanna.
Which is not a rainforest.
Not even close. Less vibrant, way less biodiversity. And the Amazon, it does a lot more than just look pretty, right?
Right. Okay, so explain this whole thing about the Amazon regulating the climate. Why should someone like in Europe or Asia even care about this?
Because it affects everyone. Remember how we were talking about trees being like these giant pumps sucking up the CO2?
Yeah.
The Amazon is like the world's biggest carbon sink. It's absorbing a massive amount of carbon dioxide, which is helping to slow down climate change for all of us.
But if it dries up, turns into a savanna, it can't do that as well.
Exactly. It's way less effective. And it gets worse because when all those trees die off and decompose, all that carbon they were storing right back into the atmosphere.
So it's like a double whammy.
Exactly. And we're talking about accelerating climate change for everyone.
And if I'm remembering the research right, these intense droughts, they could start happening way more often, right?
That's what the models are saying. If we don't do something about emissions, we could be looking at these kinds of droughts every 10, 15 years.
Okay, hold on. I need a little bit of good news here. Before we completely lose it, is there anything that can actually be done? Like, can we reverse this?
It's urgent, that's for sure. But it's not hopeless. We have to deal with the root causes. That means climate change and deforestation.
So basically, we have to get our act together globally.
Yeah, cutting back on emissions is huge. It's a massive undertaking, going to take everyone working together. But there are also things we can be doing right now, more targeted stuff.
Like what? How do we actually protect the rainforest itself?
Planting trees is a big one. Reforestation. Try to restore some of what's been lost, help the rainforest bounce back.
But that's got to be more complicated than just sticking trees in the ground, right?
Oh, for sure. It has to be done right. You have to plant the right kinds of trees, native species, and it has to be sustainable. Got to work with the communities that live there.
What about the wildfires? Those are a huge part of this, too.
Definitely. We need to be way tougher on deforestation. But a lot of these fires, they're started on purpose to clear land for farming and stuff. We've got to crack down on that.
So it's like a two-pronged attack deal with the global problem of climate change, but also take care of the rainforest itself.
Exactly. It's got to be both.
It's just crazy how much this drought is impacting the people living there. We've talked about water and food, but then you've got the transportation problems.
Yeah.
No access to health care.
Right. That river is their lifeline. And when it dries up, they're cut off from everything they need. Medicine, supplies. Imagine a medical emergency when you can't even get to a hospital.
It really makes you think about how connected everything is. The environment, people's health, even the economy.
It all ties together. And this drought, it's messing with all of it. And what a lot of people don't realize is it goes even further than that.
It's not just those communities either, right? I was reading that this is even affecting things like electricity, hydropower. They're having blackouts because the dams don't have enough water.
Yeah, the Amazon's always been seen as this like endless source of clean energy, right?
Right.
But this drought, it's really showing how risky it is to depend so much on hydropower, especially with climate change making things so unpredictable.
It's a wake-up call for sure. We need to be smarter about this
Yeah.
stuff. Okay, so we've covered a lot. If our listeners were to take away just one thing from all of this, what would you want it to be?
I'd say don't think about this drought as some isolated thing happening in the Amazon. This is a warning. What's happening there, it's connected to everything else. Climate change, it's the real deal, and it's affecting all of us.
Yeah, and it's easy to feel helpless. Right? Like, what can one person even do about a problem this big?
Well, yeah, we need everyone on board. Governments, businesses, everyone's got to step up on climate change. But that doesn't mean your own actions don't matter.
So, like, what can people do?
Think about what you're buying. Support companies that are actually trying to be sustainable. Look at your own carbon footprint. See where you can cut back. And talk about it. Make it clear that you care about this stuff, that you want to see change.
So it's about being aware, making different choices, and speaking up.
Exactly. Because once you understand what's really going on, how serious it is, you're in a much better position to actually do something about it.
Well said. This whole deep dive, it's been pretty intense, not going to lie.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, I'm walking away feeling hopeful. Like, yeah, things are bad, but we can still turn this around.
The Amazon's incredible. All those plants, all those animals, the people who call it home. It's worth fighting for. And it's up to all of us to join that fight. That's it for our deep dives on the Amazon drought. We hope you learned something today, and more importantly, that you feel ready to make a difference. Keep asking those tough questions, keep learning, and we'll see you next time.